Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. The rivalry that changed women's basketball forever. The rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese is not just another basketball story. It is a battle that completely transformed the landscape of women's basketball. Two players, two different styles, two different journeys, but one undeniable truth. Whenever they step on the court together, the entire basketball world stops and watches. From the moment these two stars first collided, something felt different. This was not just another matchup. This was the kind of rivalry that creates legends. One player became known for unbelievable shooting range, elite passing, and the ability to control the entire game from anywhere on the floor. The other built her reputation through strength, toughness, rebounding dominance, and an unstoppable presence inside the paint. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese represented two completely different versions of greatness. And yet, every time they met, the same question followed. Who truly has the advantage when everything is on the line? For years, fans have debated whether this rivalry is actually equal or whether the numbers reveal a completely different story. Because behind the headlines, behind the viral clips, and behind the emotional moments, there is a much deeper story. A story filled with championship battles, revenge games, record-breaking performances, and moments that changed the direction of women's basketball forever. But when every meeting is placed side by side, when every statistic is analyzed, and when every important moment is examined, a surprising pattern begins to appear. The rivalry may not be as balanced as many people believe. And it all started before either player even entered the WNBA. The moment everything changed, every legendary rivalry has a beginning. A moment when two competitors realize they are connected forever. For Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, that moment happened on the biggest stage possible, the national championship game. LSU entered that game looking for history. Iowa entered hoping Caitlin Clark could deliver one more incredible performance and complete one of the greatest tournament runs in women's basketball history. But when the final buzzer sounded, the story belonged to Angel Reese and LSU. The Tigers defeated Iowa 102-85 and captured the national championship. For Angel Reese, it was the ultimate achievement. She became a champion. She had the trophy. She had the spotlight. She had something that every competitor dreams about. But for Caitlin Clark, that night created something completely different. It created motivation. Because losing on the biggest stage does something powerful to elite athletes. It creates a memory they never forget. A moment they replay. A moment that fuels every workout, every practice, and every future matchup. And for Clark, that championship loss became the beginning of a mission. Find a way to answer back. The following season, the basketball world got exactly what it wanted. A rematch. Not just another game. A chance to settle unfinished business. Iowa and LSU met again, but this time the stakes were even higher. A Final Four appearance was on the line. Angel Reese had the confidence of a champion. Caitlin Clark had something to prove. And what happened next became one of the defining moments of their entire rivalry. The revenge game that shocked everyone. LSU knew exactly what they needed to do. Their entire defensive strategy was built around one mission: stop Caitlin Clark. Every screen, every possession, every opportunity. The Tigers sent extra defenders. They tried forcing the ball out of Clark's hands. They challenged every shot. They wanted anyone else on Iowa's roster to beat them. But there was one problem. Caitlin Clark refused to be stopped. Instead of slowing down, she delivered one of the greatest performances of her career. 41 points, 12 assists, 7 rebounds, against a defense designed specifically to eliminate her. This was not a meaningless game. This was not a blowout where statistics were inflated. This was an elimination game. A win-or-go-home moment. And Caitlin Clark took over. Every possession became a reminder of why she was considered one of the most dangerous offensive players in college basketball history. She controlled the tempo. She created shots. She attacked weaknesses. She made the defense pay for every decision. LSU tried everything. Nothing worked. The player they built their entire game plan around was still dominating. That performance changed the conversation. Because it proved something important. Caitlin Clark was not just a great scorer. She was a player who could rise when the pressure was at its highest. Two styles. One massive rivalry. The reason this rivalry became so fascinating was because Clark and Reese could not have been more different. Angel Reese dominated through physicality. She attacked rebounds. She controlled the paint. She punished defenders with strength and positioning. She played with an edge that made every possession feel like a battle. Caitlin Clark operated differently. She stretched defenses from impossible distances. She created opportunities for teammates. She turned ordinary possessions into highlight moments. She could change a game without even scoring. One player controlled the inside. The other controlled the entire floor. And that contrast created something the sport desperately needed. A rivalry that fans could understand immediately. A rivalry where every matchup felt bigger than basketball. When both players eventually entered the WNBA, the rivalry followed them. The stage changed. The pressure increased. But the question remained, could Angel Reese finally close the gap against Caitlin Clark at the professional level? The answer would come quickly, because their first WNBA meetings created even more drama. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, the WNBA battle that divided the basketball world. When Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese entered the WNBA, everyone knew one thing: this rivalry was only getting started. The college battles created the foundation. The championship game. The revenge matchup. The unforgettable performances. But professional basketball was different. The competition was tougher. The players were stronger. The pressure was higher. And now, every single matchup carried a new level of attention. The entire league was watching. Fans who had never followed women's basketball before suddenly knew the names Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Every game became an event. Every possession became a conversation. Every highlight became a headline. The question was no longer just about college basketball. The question became, who would control the future of the WNBA? The first professional showdown, when the Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky first met with Clark and Reese as professionals, the atmosphere felt completely different. This was not just a regular season game. It was a continuation of a rivalry that had already captured millions of fans. The opening matchup was everything people expected. Physical. Competitive. Close. The game came down to the final moments. Neither team wanted to give the other an advantage. But when the final buzzer sounded, Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever walked away with the victory. It was only one game. One result. One moment. But it sent an early message. The rivalry had followed them to the WNBA, and Clark was still finding ways to come out ahead. The attention surrounding the matchup was enormous. Fans who had never watched the league before were suddenly tuning in. People wanted to see the next chapter. They wanted to know if Angel Reese could answer back. They wanted to know if Caitlin Clark could continue proving she was the player everyone believed she could become. And the next meetings only made the rivalry bigger. The rivalry that brought new eyes to the WNBA. Something unusual happened when Clark and Reese entered the league. The conversation around women's basketball changed. Games involving the Fever and Sky became must-watch events. The audience expanded. New fans started following the league. The rivalry became bigger than two players. It became a symbol of a new era. But despite all the attention, one thing remained clear. Both players wanted to prove themselves on the court. Not through popularity. Not through social media. Not through outside opinions. Through basketball. And one of the most interesting moments came when they were finally placed on the same team. At the All-Star game. For once, Clark and Reese were not opponents. They were teammates. Instead of fighting against each other, they represented the league together. And that moment showed something important. This rivalry was intense, but it was not about hatred. It was about competition. It was about two elite athletes pushing each other to become better. Caitlin Clark showed her ability as a playmaker, creating opportunities and controlling the offense. Angel Reese showed why she was considered one of the league's strongest rebounders, producing a historic performance. She became the first rookie in the event's history to record a double-double. The message was clear. Both players belonged. Both players were changing the game. But when they returned to competing against each other, the battle continued. Clark's complete domination after the All-Star break, the rivalry returned. And Caitlin Clark delivered one of her most complete performances against Chicago. This was not just about scoring. This was about controlling every part of the game. Clark finished with 23 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks. It was the type of performance that showed why she was considered more than just a shooter. She was affecting every possession, creating offense, defending, making plays, changing the entire rhythm of the game. For a guard, recording multiple blocks against a physical team built around interior strength showed another level of competitiveness. She was not simply trying to outscore Angel Reese. She was trying to impact the entire game. But then came the moment Angel Reese had been waiting for. Her answer. Angel Reese finally fires back. Every great rivalry needs moments where one player answers the other. And Angel Reese created one of those moments. In one of their closest battles, Reese produced a performance that reminded everyone why she was one of the most respected young players in basketball. She finished with 25 points, 16 rebounds. It was powerful, physical, dominant. She attacked the glass. She controlled the paint. She made life difficult for Indiana. Meanwhile, Clark finished with 17 points, 13 assists. It was one of the clearest examples that this rivalry was never about one player being incapable of competing. Angel Reese was a star. She could change games. She could take over for moments. She could defeat anyone when everything came together. But the bigger question remained, could she consistently maintain that success against Clark? Because one great performance can change a night, but a full season reveals a pattern. And that pattern started becoming impossible to ignore. The season series that told a bigger story throughout the rookie season, the Fever and Sky faced each other multiple times. And when the season ended, the overall result told an interesting story. Indiana won 3 out of 4 meetings. Chicago had its moments. Reese had her victories. She had performances that proved she belonged among the league's rising stars. But when everything was added together, the advantage belonged to Clark and the Fever. The difference was not that Angel Reese failed. The difference was consistency. Clark continued producing at an elite level throughout the season. She continued creating. She continued controlling games. She continued finding ways to help Indiana win. And then came the next chapter. A game that completely changed how people viewed this rivalry. A game that shocked fans across the basketball world. The night Caitlin Clark sent a message to the entire league the following season began with enormous expectations. Everyone wanted to know, had Chicago improved? Could Angel Reese and the Sky finally close the gap? Could they finally change the direction of this rivalry? The answer came immediately. And it was brutal. The Fever traveled to Chicago, a place where Reese had built her reputation, a place where the Sky believed they could make a statement. Instead, they experienced one of the most shocking defeats of the season. The final score, Indiana Fever 93, Chicago Sky 58, a 35-point destruction. And the most shocking part was not just the score. It was how Caitlin Clark dominated. She delivered a performance that looked almost impossible. 20 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds, a triple-double. But she did not stop there. She added 4 blocks, 2 steals. It was a complete takeover. Offensively, defensively, everywhere. The player Chicago was trying to contain controlled the entire game. The crowd came expecting a battle. Instead, they watched a statement. This was not just a win. This was a message. Caitlin Clark was showing that the gap was not closing. At least not yet. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. The final verdict that the numbers reveal the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese has created some of the biggest moments in women's basketball history. It has produced unforgettable games. It has created debates everywhere. It has brought millions of new eyes to the sport. But when all the emotions are removed, when the arguments are put aside, and when every matchup is analyzed carefully, one question remains. What does the full body of work actually say? Because one game can create a headline. One highlight can create a viral moment. One incredible performance can change the conversation overnight. But a long-term pattern is much harder to ignore. And that is where the numbers begin telling a much bigger story. The numbers behind the rivalry across their professional meetings, Caitlin Clark has consistently produced elite numbers against Angel Reese. The averages show a player who has repeatedly found ways to impact games at the highest level. Against Reese, Clark has averaged around 21 points per game, 9 assists per game, 6 rebounds per game. Those numbers are not coming from easy matchups. They are coming against one of the strongest rebounders and most physical defenders in the league. They are coming against a player whose entire game is built around controlling the paint and making opponents uncomfortable. That is what makes Clark's production stand out. Because maintaining that level of performance against the same elite opponent over multiple seasons requires more than talent. It requires adjustment. It requires confidence. It requires the ability to solve problems again and again. And so far, Clark has repeatedly found answers. Why a long-term record matters. Every great rivalry has moments where one player looks unstoppable. Angel Reese has had those moments. She has proven she can dominate games. She has shown that she can control the boards, attack defenders, and completely change the energy of a matchup. Those performances matter. They are real. They cannot be ignored. But the difference between a great individual moment and a dominant rivalry record is consistency. Basketball is not decided by one night. It is decided over time, over multiple games, over multiple seasons, over different environments. And when the entire history is placed together, Clark's teams have come away with more victories. The wins have not always been easy. The games have not always been one-sided. But the overall advantage has consistently leaned toward Clark. The biggest misconception about this rivalry: many people look at Clark versus Reese and assume the story is simple. One player wins. One player loses. But that misses the bigger picture. This rivalry became special because both players represent greatness in different ways. Angel Reese represents toughness. She represents power. She represents a style of basketball built on effort, strength, and physical dominance. She has the ability to change a game without needing the ball constantly in her hands. Caitlin Clark represents creativity. She represents skill. She represents a style of basketball where one player can control the entire floor. Her passing ability, shooting range, and basketball IQ allow her to influence every possession. They are different. And that difference is exactly why fans keep watching. Angel Reese's response. Why this rivalry is not over. Although the numbers may favor Clark, writing off Angel Reese would be a mistake. Great rivalries survive because both sides continue to evolve. Reese has already shown she can answer back. She has produced huge performances against Clark. She has proven she can win. She has shown that every matchup is an opportunity to rewrite the story. And one of the biggest reminders came when Reese finally ended a losing streak against Clark. With a new situation, new teammates, and a new environment, Reese delivered the kind of performance that reminded everyone why she remains one of the league's most dangerous young stars. That victory mattered, not because it erased everything before it, but because it proved something important. The rivalry is still alive. Why the next chapter could be even bigger. The future of this rivalry is impossible to predict. Basketball changes quickly. Players improve. Teams rebuild. Coaches adjust. New systems create new opportunities. A player who struggles against an opponent one year can completely change the matchup the next. That is what makes Clark and Reese so fascinating. Every meeting feels like a new test. Can Reese continue closing the gap? Can Clark continue maintaining her advantage? Can another chapter change everything we think we know? Those questions are exactly what make fans come back. The final answer. So after everything, the college battles, the championship game, the Elite Eight revenge performance, the WNBA meetings, the rookie season battles, the record-breaking moments, the statistics, the victories, the losses. What does the rivalry really show? It shows two incredible competitors who have already changed basketball forever. It shows Angel Reese is a superstar capable of dominating any game. It shows Caitlin Clark has repeatedly found ways to rise above the pressure and deliver when the spotlight is brightest. But when the complete history is examined, when every matchup is placed together, when the results are counted instead of debated, the advantage belongs to Caitlin Clark.